that kept her too close. Now she cannot escape her true fate. To a crucible that stretches the sanity.
Hey guys, Moby here with my 3.20 EK Tornado Chieftain. I've played this build in 3.19 as well, but now we have some new tools that even improve the build. The core idea of this build is having EK, which is a very high physical spell skill gem. Then we convert 90% of the physical damage to fire damage, 50% with this node and another 40% with this mastery here, so that we have 90% converted to fire damage, and then we have some other sources where we gain physical damage as extra cold, with Taste of Hate for example, then physical damage as extra damage of a random element, and here we have the Balance of Terror, which is a very new jewel, which makes us gain 39% of physical damage as a random element if you've cast Elemental Weakness in the past 10 seconds. So we just have to cast Elemental Weakness sometimes. We don't even have to cast it on the monster that should get the extra damage. You just have to cast it anywhere, that's enough, and then you gain the extra damage. Also, we gain some physical damage as extra chaos damage due to this mastery. Gain or Unholy Might on block for 3 seconds. Unholy Might grants 30% of fizz damage as extra chaos damage. Since we are block capped due to glancing blows, we block very often so that Unholy Might is up very often. For the clear we also have Exploding Gloves, Asenath's Gentle Touch. These work the best with Chieftain because enemies killed near corpses affected by your curses explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. And this physical damage, I believe, is also being converted by these nodes and also benefits from the extra damage that we gain, so that the clear is kinda nice. Since the base damage of EK is very high, we also freeze and shock even bosses pretty reliably, just due to the fact that we have some physical damage as extra damage of a random element, which can be cold and lightning. So this is also why we do not want Avatar of Fire in the build, because then we could only deal fire damage and all of these other tools would just be wasted. Another physical spell skill gem is the Tornado, which we drop at the boss. The Tornado consists of a base duration and a secondary duration. During the base duration it can be hit by projectile, and the damage that the projectiles deal to the Tornado is then reflected to the enemy. This is why we want to have very high cast speed in order to increase our single target damage significantly. In this case, the Tornado is socketed in a helmet which has the mod trigger socketed spell when you focus. So in this case I can focus and then I can shoot the Tornado in order to make it reflect the damage that it took from the EKs to the boss. The advantage of the trigger setup is that I can just spam the EK and right now I can also trigger it. So it does not have the cast time of the Tornado. If you cast the Tornado manually, then I can showcase this as well here. It takes some time to cast it and then you can spam the EK. And since the base duration in which you can hit the Tornado so that it reflects the damage that it has been dealt to in this short duration is so limited. You want to trigger it ideally. Of course, you can also increase the duration of the 2 tornado phases by increased duration support, which is mandatory. Of course, for the EK there's a helmet enchantment which makes the projectiles fire in all directions, so that helps a lot with the clear, but I wanted just to show that it's not necessary. You can also clear very well with the regular setup, and then you can have something else. Like me, I'm having Arctic Armor, has 75% increased mana reservation efficiency. So let's have a look at the gear. The stuff is very important. For +3 to level of all physical spell skill gems, you should buy a fractured mod, and then you can craft it with an essence that gives you at least 40% increased cast speed, and then you can look if you have one more mod that is acceptable, like crit chance for spells, crit multi, or some added spell damage, for example, fire, or even more ideal physical. That would be great. And then you can craft with a bench spell damage and non-chaos as extra chaos. So that's all you need, basically. And also it comes with an implicit that has lots of block chance. So with glancing blows, we gain 75% attack and spell block easily. Then for the helmet, we use the trigger setup, and the rest is life, some stats that you need maybe, and some resistances. Here we want to have +1 to level of all Fizz spell skill gems, of course, and then crit multi and cast speed. We want to have cast speed on almost every gear, and chance to gain a frenzy charge. That's also important. And ideally some life gained per enemy hit with spells. That's very good. And in this case I also got some total recovery per second from life leech, which is also kind of nice. Then just life and resistances, and here I have some elusive boots. That's basically it. And here the Asenat's Gentle Touch. They are very cheap with double corrupts. Let's take a look at the gems. EK, level 21 of course, is linked to Awakened Spell Echo support in this case. This is very expensive right now. It's like 15 Divine Orbs. But you can also go with the regular Spell Echo support. It is no problem. Then I took Pierce, because the Awakened Fork is very expensive right now because people play EK with the Elementalist. Then Awakened added fire damage support, that's very cheap. Inspiration in this case. And also I took Awakened fire penetration support. This one isn't even that great because as you have learned, we are also dealing some chaos damage, some cold and lightning damage. So we rather want increased critical damage support. But I did not have the right socket colors. Then we have the Tornado here linked to Combustion, power charge on critical in order to gain some power charges, and then increased duration. Here I have Molten Shell with cast when damage taken and increased duration. Enduring Cry I have on left click because I have here this relic with Call to Arms so that it can be cast instantly. And here we have Spell Totem with Wave of Conviction in order to give us some exposure, which isn't even needed here because the fire exposure we also gain from this gem, which should be replaced ideally. Elemental Weakness, of course, here should be self-cast. And then we have Arctic Armor, Herald of Purity, Precision, and Herald of Ash. So Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, these are very important in order to get damage and also help with the clear, the Herald of Ash. Arctic Armor helps with the defenses. And Precision, I have a very low level Precision, which doesn't do anything for spell builds apart from 22% increased crit chance here. Right now that is not a lot, but I've used the Sublime Vision again, 25% more critical strike chance while affected by Precision. So since this also counts for spell builds, I can showcase 75% spell crit right here without power charges and anything. And if we remove it, we're at 59%. So that's quite significant. But you could also, for example, choose the anger one in order to always scorch while affected by anger. But then you could have some mana problems because anger reserves 50% of mana. And I made the build work to go without life tap in the EK setup so that we can spam it, and it kind of works out pretty nicely. Last but not least, let's have a look at the tree. Of course, we want to have this one first in order to gain the 100% of fizz damage as extra fire every 10 seconds for 4 seconds and for the conversion. Then we want to have Tassalio, which is a very powerful defensive node, of course. And then this one is very nice. Cover rare or unique enemies in Ash, and also the Leech. That's pretty good. And this one is also okay. Yeah, damage penetrates 15% fire resistance. Of course, since we are not only dealing fire damage, you could also replace this maybe by Valakvo Storm's Embrace. If you have a way to lose endurance charges, like with maybe with Immortal Call or something, you could just try that out. Then, of course, we path right here up, and then here we have the Thread of Hope, very large ring. Was very cheap, like 20 chaos, -10 to all elemental resistances. We can grab Glancing Blows this way in order to achieve our block cap, some life and reduced cost of skills, extra fizz as extra fire, and also the Iron Will, which is pretty nice in order to gain some more spell damage. And here we have the some cast speed. Then we want to go here and grab the stuff nodes, of course. We want to recover especially life when we block. And here we want to have the elemental damage and also the fizz as extra fire. And here we also gain 10% fizz as extra damage of a random element. Here we have the Sublime Vision that I've talked about. Then here we want to have spell block, of course. 3% increased spell damage per 5% chance to block spell damage. So that's also very nice. Here we convert 40% of fizz to fire. And here we want to have some more crit multi against unique enemies. And here we gain the Unholy Might on block for 3 seconds. Here I had to take a dexterity note. Is this still... oh yeah, I have to take it still. Okay. Then here we have some crit chance, crit multi. These two are pretty interesting. These solve our mana problems. Spells cause to gain mana equal to their upfront cost every 5th time you pay it. And also here we have 10% chance to recover 10% of mana when you use a skill. So these two are enough in order to sustain the mana. But also I have here some this implicit node, increased mana recovery rate, which is also very useful. Then here we have, this is a very nice shenanigan that I've used here. So we travel down here and use Elegant Hubris. And I bought some nice mods here. 80% spell damage, 80% crit chance, 80% crit chance, 80% crit chance. This one is wasted actually. And this one is wasted too, so you could also get a better one. And then we use the Impossible Escape in order to be able to allocate these passives without being connected to the tree, so that we just have to spend 1 point for each of these very powerful nodes in order to almost cap our crit chance. But I want to say that this is not necessary. Yeah, you don't need that one. You can just go with, maybe you could also go with the Pain Attunement, so that you gain more spell damage and you reserve another aura or something like that if you want to do that. But it's a pretty nice way to improve your character. So if you have any questions about the build, then please feel free to comment below. I also posted the POE in the description. If you appreciate the content, if you want to see me play other builds that are a bit off meta, then please consider liking or even subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much and see you next time.